I wish Excel would let me create milestone or timeline charts on the fly. This is the utility that allows you to do that. The default keys are Control-Shift-Alt-K, and you can find this on the Utilities menu under Charts, Milestone Timeline. So let's take a look at how this works. To start with, I've set up a sample data set that has 3 columns. The first column is the date, the second column is the activity, third column is the difficulty. So basically we have the date that any item shows up on the timeline, what the description of the activity is, and then how hard I think it is. So it's on January 1st, start date, then we'll go through this design phase in February, then parts and equipment received in March, assembly complete by April 15th, and so on. For this utility to work, you just highlight your data set, hit Control-Shift-Alt-K, and out pops a chart. To make this work, you only actually need this much highlighted. You need to have the headers and at least one row of data. The headers, what you have for the titles doesn't actually matter, but these descriptions are fairly accurate for what this is going to do. So you can see that the date column ends up being your data labels. The activity column ends up being the description of each activity. And the difficulty is how far away from the center each of these shows up. So you can see start shows up only a couple points away, whereas assembly shows up further away because I think this is quite a bit more difficult. The fact that these numbers are positive or negative determines whether the line goes up or down. So you can see start goes up because it's positive 2, and assembly complete goes down because it's negative 8. Right away looking at this, you can see that these data labels here are not quite right. And the reason for that is because it's looking at these like they're dates. And so it's putting the appropriate amount of space between the dates. So between January and February, there's a certain amount of space, but between March and April 15th, there's quite a bit more. And then between these 2 dates, there's less. The way I like to fix this is to make it not think that these are dates anymore. And the way to do that is put an apostrophe in front of the first item. You can see now the spacing is a lot more even. And that's because based on the first item not being a date, it doesn't think that all these data labels are dates. But still, now that we put an apostrophe in front of it, it's looking at this first item like it actually wants it to write 1/1/2018. To get it in the same format as the rest, I would actually have to type in just for this one what I want it to say, and I want it to say 1-Gen. That looks a lot cleaner. Also, you can see that this title doesn't actually fit right, so I'm going to expand the chart a little bit. Now it fits. Now, if you're like me and you hate these spaces between the data labels and you want this to be one line, this is where it gets tricky. In Excel 2007, you can just drag this and it'll start to resize these data labels appropriately based on making the chart bigger or smaller. In Excel 2013 Plus, you can actually control each data label size. For that, I've actually built another beta add-in for this, or another beta utility for this, because I'm not really sure how well it works yet, but I built it just for circumstances like this in 2013. So let's take a look at how it works. If I select a data label and hit Control-Alt-K, that was Control-Alt-K, so I'm just holding down Control and Alt and I'm quickly tapping K, you can see that the data labels grow. And if I hit Control-Shift-K, I can make them shrink. So by selecting a data label set and hitting Control-Alt-K, I can make them grow. And I'm just rapidly tapping K while holding down Control-Alt. And now you can see it's one nice line. Something else to know, when creating charts with VBA in Excel, it can differ from version to version. So if what gets spit out for you does not look exactly like this, it should be nearly there. And the reason that's different is because because Excel treats VBA for charts differently between versions. One other thing to note is that this chart is set up using dynamic named ranges. And to see what I mean, if we go to formulas, well, first of all, I can't be clicked on the chart. And we go to formulas, name range. You can see that in the name range, you have this milestone name range. Basically, in here, you have 4 name ranges, one for each name range that's required for this chart. Each of these name ranges is dynamic, and in that sense, it's because it uses a formula that looks like this. And this is basically set up to just capture new data. So let's say I put in new data here. So we have, let's say we do 15th, let's say we do 8/15/2018. And then we call it add new data, and we call it 10. You can see that I just added this new data set here, and that the chart automatically grabbed it, and that's because it's using those dynamic name ranges. You're allowed to add as much data as you like here. Although getting it to look right, you might have to do something like apostrophe 15-og, and that might look better. And then you can see you have a space, and you have to adjust the data label accordingly.